Greetings and welcome to this episode of the Heal and Restore podcast. It snuck back in, didn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit.
It was a little
heat.
little
Yeah,
high
well,
pitched
you know.
sound there.
So welcome again to our podcast, and with your host, me, Randy, and my beautiful bride, Kathy.
Hey there, everybody.
And again, we've been having a busy month, and so we missed last week's podcast. We apologize for that. Our intent is to make sure that we have these podcasts every Monday.
That's right.
And we did some traveling. We surprised some friends in Alabama and in Texas.
Yeah, pretty fun.
Some people that we had mentored over the years. And one of them was having their first year anniversary for Celebrate Recovery.
Right.
So we thought it was important that we be there to support them. And they were surprised. They had no idea. So
yeah, it's a good experience for all of us.
Yeah. Then our other couple too she was really needing to see Kathy. Kathy's like her spiritual mama.
Yeah.
A lot like a real mom to her as well.
Yeah.
So it was great.
Yeah,
it was great.
It was a good trip. We saw a lot of country, over 3,000 miles.
And we were able to spend an evening with Uncle Eddie.
Yep.
Uncle Eddie eats. How you doing? Parmigiana.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a good time. It was great.
Yeah. Good to get away. Good to see that, other parts of the country that we hadn't been in, but also it's always good to get home.
Yeah, it was good to get home. It was 9 days on the road, and I think we spent 6 of those 9 days driving.
Yeah,
is that about right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, 6 of those 9 days driving. So
sometimes 8 to 11, 12 hours a day.
Yeah, it's 3,400 miles, but it was well worth it.
Yeah, no, we're glad. We're glad we did it. So here we are. We're back.
We're back at home.
Yeah,
back on the podcast journey.
Yeah. What are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about the unavoidable regrets. Why regret is a pointless emotion.
Ooh, that's really good. And we don't think of regret as an emotion.
No.
But how many times can regret consume our thoughts? How many things have you've regretted over the years that have just kind of taken your thoughts captive?
Exactly. I mean, I think it's inevitable that we're going to experience regret, several times in our life, but we want to dive into why it's such a pointless emotion. And there's a very good reason for it. We're not saying it lighthearted. There's a really good reason for it, right?
Yeah.
So for the next 30 minutes or so, however long we decide to go.
However long Randy decides
Kathy
to go.
cuts me off. We'll be talking about the pointless emotion of regret.
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Why don't we start off, Kathy? What is regret? Let's talk about defining regret.
Sure. Yeah, no, regret, it's that stinking feeling we get when we think about a decision or an action that didn't go as planned. It's a voice in our head. I don't know where this little person comes from, but it shows up. If I'd only done it this way, or if I only said this, or if what if I didn't make that type of a choice?
Right.
All of those things. And I've had those moments. I'm sure we all have.
I mean,
we've all had moments where we feel like could have, should have, would have.
Right. I mean, how many times have we spoken publicly? Right.
Oh yeah.
And then it's like, oh man, I meant to say this, or I meant to say that. Well, the reality is that if you're being guided by God, you're saying exactly what you're supposed to say.
Yeah, and you taught me that a long time ago. Is that you said exactly what the people needed to hear.
Exactly, at that moment.
That's something coulda, shoulda, woulda. Poor choices, missed opportunities, even things we didn't say that we're talking about.
Right.
I think all of those kind of fall under that potential regret emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but here's the interesting thing is research shows that regret is one of the most common emotions experienced by people of all ages.
Absolutely.
And that's interesting because you would think as a child, you wouldn't understand regret, but I don't know that they fully understand it, but they feel the emotion.
They feel the emotion part of it. Yeah. There's a saying, no regrets in life. I think we've learned that ourselves in the last 19 years, 20 years of recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. Regret can be a blend of sadness. It can be disappointment, frustration, all wrapped into one. I mean, those are all emotions within themselves. So now we're kind of making a bigger emotion with that.
Well, and one of the regrets that, speaking of children, as a 12-year-old boy, when we were in the funeral parlor when my dad passed away, and we went in to say goodbye to him, and he looked great in his fireman outfit, and my mother said, "You want to give him a kiss goodbye," and I just ran out of the room crying. Right.
Yeah.
And so many times it's like I wish I would have just give him a kiss and said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I love you." But well, I didn't know better. I didn't know that I was just in too much pain, right, to actually follow through with that. But I did regret it for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And why do we regret? Why do we have regrets in the first place? And why do we feel them? Because it's like it's an emotion. We're talking about an emotion. And a lot of times it stems from a belief that we could have made a better choice if we had known then what we know now. I mean, those are things that, regrets come after the fact. They're not
Right.
the thought of, oh, I'm going to regret this in this moment. It's
Right.
like coulda, shoulda, woulda after an event or something has taken
I
place.
think we've all made those choices where we say, "I'm going to regret doing this. I know I am."
Well, it depends on what you're, yeah, it
but
depends on what that choice is for sure.
that's a whole nother ball game
Yeah,
right there.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's the choices we make and regretting some of those. But again, we're going to talk about why they're pointless, because there's actually a very good point. Like we talk about all the time.
Right.
There's no such thing as failure.
No,
Not-
we'll get into
we'll
that.
get into that,
But here's
too.
one of the things I think that was very interesting in our research on this is the paradox of regret. It's that while it may seem to give us insights about our past, it's also an emotion that's anchored in the events that are already behind us.
It's that perfectionism.
Yeah.
That we're still striving for that perfectionism. And I think what it is I've talked about this recently, is that we're living in today, but we're living in the past. We're bringing our past into today, right? So those traumas of not being good enough when we were a child, right, or whatever, I think that falls into place with those regrets, right?
And that kind of falls in line with what you said about your dad, not saying, kissing him and saying goodbye to him.
Right.
A lot of that is based upon a past. You didn't think about that in that moment.
No.
But it was after the fact. So it was something that was already behind us.
Right.
The choices we made, the actions we took or didn't take that can't be undone. That's kind of what regret does. It's we can't change what's already happened.
Yeah, once a cannonball shot, we can't pull it back. Yeah.
No, and this is why in many cases regret can be completely pointless emotion.
Right, exactly.
We're gonna die, and we'll get a little into this a little deeper, but we can't change what's already happened.
No, we can't change what we've already. So we can correct ourselves along the way if we think about it.
Right.
But oftentimes we're in a place of where we're just continually talking about a certain subject.
Yeah. So let's talk about the pointlessness of regret. So let's kind of explore that. Randy, what are some of the pointlessness points of regret?
One of the things is that we don't have the power to change anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like,
that's good.
It's like it's done and it's over with. And I think what happens a lot of times, especially with me, it's like we were talking earlier, that I could have done better. But that being said, we'd said exactly what was supposed to be said, because it's been proven both to you and I countless times over and over that people have come up to us after we've spoken or in one of our sessions and say, "Man, that really resonated with me," right? And so it's like
it's that confirmation.
That what
was said was exactly what needed to be said. Yeah.
And so the other part is that when we're regretting something, we're essentially allowing our minds to go back into the past, or robbing us of the present moment, of the wins in that present moment.
Yeah.
Our past doesn't define who we are.
Nor does it define our future.
Nor does it define our future. And trauma victims and trauma survivors, to say it that way, that haven't done their healing process, that's all they know is their past.
Right. So every experience is based upon a past experience.
Right? Good. And it's like that perfectionism. I should have done better. I should have done this. No, you did exactly what you were supposed to do.
And that kind of leads into the next one too, where we play the scenario out over and over and over again, thinking about what could have been, rather than accepting what is.
What is, exactly.
And I think that's where I can get myself in a lot of trouble, is I get so consumed by what I should have, could have, would have done instead of just saying, okay, well, that's happened. So what did I learn?
Yeah,
And where do I go from here?
exactly.
Instead of fighting
Exactly.
that. So it becomes a battle within the mind.
Right, right.
That's really good.
And this is a really good point too, is that we got to remember that life is inherently unpredictable.
Oh, that's good.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's just we can't predict the future,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like I think I said this on a last podcast, and I think this is really important to say again. What is the one thing that we're always waiting for that never comes?
Mm-hmm.
Tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because when tomorrow comes, it's today. And so we have to always stay focused in the moment. And we're going to talk about the positive part of regret here in a
Yeah,
minute. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. There's
yeah.
a very positive part.
This next one though it's really interesting to think about. I mean, if you really think about this and let it resonate with you, we don't always know the outcomes of our
No.
choices in advance.
No.
So regret is not something that, in most cases, I mean, sometimes, yeah, we can say, yeah, I'm going to regret. I know I'm going to regret this. That might be saying, I'm going to eat 20 cookies and I know I'm going to regret
Right,
this.
right, exactly.
That's an obvious. But
Right.
in a lot of cases, we don't always know what the outcome is of our choice.
No, and that's also like if we're speaking to people or helping people.
Mhm.
Here's the other thing too that we've come to understand is that we don't really know how many people we're helping. We know we plant a lot of seeds,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And so the outcome of that seed planting is not up to us. The
Right.
outcome is up to God. And it might take too, it's been a hard lesson for me to learn is that other people, right, are going to have to water those seeds.
Right.
Okay. Our job just might be to plant the seeds, but it's hard because it's like, maybe if I'd have just said this person would have come at me different or whatever.
Mhm.
So we just got to be really careful and understand that,
Yeah.
we say what we say, and if we're prepared, it's exactly what
Yeah.
we're supposed to say.
And that's the whole thing. We can spend hours
Oh.
weighing out every pro and con before
Yeah.
we make a decision, but there's no guarantee it's going to turn out the way we hope, the
No.
way we think, the
No.
way we expect. And so we have to be mindful of that, is that sometimes regrets, it's pointless to be in regret when you don't even know the outcome, because it's
Right.
not up to us always.
So, and the other thing when it comes to that is take some time. This is where we start getting into positive stuff here. Take some time to really start reflecting
Mm-hmm.
on what you're regretting or
Right.
what your pursuing regret is, right? I mean, is it a relationship that ended badly? A job that you turned down?
Mhm.
Oh man, if I only would have taken that job. Well, we don't know if only, right?
Right.
Or even something as simple as not taking a chance when you had the opportunity,
Mhm.
right?
That's
So
good. Yeah.
yeah, so when we get into these ifs, well, what if a nuclear bomb hit us today?
Yeah.
Then all those ifs don't matter anymore, correct? So it's just being in the moment and knowing that most of you out there probably didn't make a snap decision,
No.
right? A lot of us will take the time to really decide
Yeah.
what we're going to do.
Because ask yourself this question: if you had known how things would turn out, would you have done something differently? I mean, that's
Eh,
a that's a heavy question there.
well, it is, and again, do we really know the true answer to that?
Yeah, no, and that's the
That's
takeaway, is that
that.
you don't know,
No,
and you couldn't have known. So the
no,
decisions that you were making were based upon the information and circumstances that you had in this moment or at that
right.
time.
And again, we're assuming, which is a bad thing to do, but I'm going to just say we're assuming that when if you're listening to this and you do speak in public or you're helping people, that
Mhm.
you've done your research, you've done your due diligence, and so you've got the basis of what you're talking
Right.
about ingrained in the fiber of your being. I know for me, and I've talked to Kathy about this, is that when I do speak publicly or teach a lesson or whatever, the I know when all of a sudden I'm taking my will because I
Mhm.
start stuttering.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just
Yeah.
flows out.
And then you regret the fact that you stepped in.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But what I've learned to do is like, wait a minute, this isn't God, this
Yeah.
is me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make this thing happen, and I can't do that.
Yeah, but dwelling on regret though, it can put you into such a negative cycle of thinking.
Oh yeah,
And I know you've experienced that
yeah,
a lot over
yeah,
the years,
yeah.
but
I mean,
you've come a long way. But yeah, when you are in constant regret mindset, you're in constant you're like, your mind's going backwards.
You're beating yourself up.
Yeah.
It's like you're constantly, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough.
Right.
It's just
Then you
like,
start believing.
and you start believing
Yeah.
your own words, right? And it's like where does a lot of that come from? Again, unresolved childhood trauma.
Right. And it's like that stuck cycle of what if scenarios.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
then you're always looking back and you're never able to move forward.
Right.
You get stuck in that backwards, you know, 5 steps back,
Right.
1 step forward type scenario.
And I think again, it goes to the fact, what if is like, no, if you're walking with God, and one thing that Kathy and I say under our breath is that, God, your word is my voice.
Yeah.
Right. Then we're saying exactly what God wants us to say.
Right. And we have to trust and believe in that too.
Right.
You know, pointlessness, regret can lead to anxiety and depression.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a negative mindset will do that. And that's where the anxiety and depression can come into play as well.
And then again, I'm going to rephrase those words just a little bit based on my learning and working with psychiatrists, is that the anxiety it might produce is self-induced anxiety, right? And so we have to self-soothe ourselves. It's not a diagnostic of anxiety.
Yeah.
And the depression, again, that word depression oftentimes is thrown around like candy. So it's like, are you just sad? Are you deeply sad because, man, I could have done so much better, right? So we got to be careful with the words depression and anxiety.
Well,
while clinically, yes, it is there, but
I think when we're talking about regret, I think what's important is that regret is the situational.
Exactly.
Anxiety. The situational anxiety.
Exactly.
It's being created by self.
Exactly.
So,
and then, and then what we term as depression is more than likely at that point in time just a deep sadness. Now, again, I want to tell you that if you've been diagnosed with general anxiety disorder or with clinical depression,
that's real.
That's real. And I'm like, I can't tell you anything different than that.
No. So if we look back, if we, looking at all these pointless things, if regret doesn't serve a productive purpose, how can we shift our mindset and approach it differently?
Good. Right.
That's what we've got to look at, because is regret productive?
Exactly.
Where is it taking you?
And I think that regret, like I mentioned, falls into the category of I'm a failure.
Yeah.
Right. At the root of it, it's like I'm a failure.
I wasn't good enough. I didn't do it right. All those things that we can get caught up in, and that's pointless to speak that over you.
No, absolutely. So I mean, so what would be the opposite? I mean, so we feel like we're a failure or regret something we should. So what can we do with that regret or that feeling of so-called failure?
And that's great, because now we're going to talk about how we turn regret into learning experiences. And I think that's one of the things that, we don't look at things that have gone wrong as a failure.
Right.
It's always a learning experience. So if regret is pointless in terms of changing the past, how can we use it in a way that benefits us moving forward?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And so the word failure, the way I look at it, you're not a failure unless you're doing if you're sitting on the couch doing nothing, well, then maybe that word failure can come into play. Maybe. Okay. It's a hard word. So what do we do instead? So we just got done speaking in front of 500 people, let's say, right? And it's honest, I'm on marriage, or I'm speaking on whatever it is on trauma. Right. So what we want to do instead of regret is we want to look at the things that we are regretting, right? And let's sit down and let's look at what we could do differently, or what we could have done differently, so that in the future, and you want to sit down with people that are going to give you constructive criticism. Right. Again, it's a sandwich: positive, constructive criticism, and then the positive, right? Yeah. So it's like the regret is there for a reason, right? Yeah. It's what are we going to learn from what just went down? Yeah, no, and that's great, because it's like, think about regret as feedback rather than a negative emotion to dwell on. What is regret teaching me? What is regret telling me? How can I look at this? So, if a situation didn't go as planned, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Exactly. I mean, it's kind of like what we do with our clients, right? I mean, you're the biggest cheerleader when they go down in the valley, right? Yeah. And so it's like it's my favorite part. Exactly. But we need to know, right? Okay, I feel that we did this. We could have done this better, or whatever. Okay, fine. How could we have done it better? That's where you have to have a really good mentor that's gonna walk you through with positive affirmations,
Mhm.
and in a loving way, point out some of the things that you might have been able to do
Right.
different, and then how you can do them
Yeah,
differently.
no, absolutely.
Right.
And the other thing too is what you have to look at is not only what am I learning from this, but how can I avoid making a similar mistake in the
Yes,
future? You know,
exactly.
there's so many questions we can ask ourselves that we can learn from
Right,
ourselves. Having mentors to walk with you is a bonus,
right,
but a lot of
exactly.
these things we can walk through ourselves.
But it's like I told one of our clients the other day, and he followed my advice, believe it or not. I said, "If you're gonna make mistakes, quit making the same one over and over. Get
Right.
creative,"
Get
right?
creative, do it
Well,
different.
he got creative, all right.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was a good thing that he did because it really helped him
Yeah.
in the long
But the
run,
whole
so
goal on all of this is to extract value from the experience
yes.
rather than letting it weigh you down. So, I mean, that's so important. Look at the value. Look at the positive of it because there's always something positive.
Something Kathy and I believe is this, is that every person that we come in contact with, whether it's for a split second, a minute, a day, a month, a year, whatever, that person is gonna teach us something.
Yeah.
We have to have that open mind. Whatever we go through in life, whatever it is a teaching moment.
Right.
What are we gonna learn from that experience?
Exactly. It could be something like if you regret not taking a job, rather than dwelling on the missed chance, what did you learn from the situation?
Right,
Did you learn more about what you want from a
right,
career? I mean, there's just so many things we can look at. Did you gain better understanding of your strengths and
right,
weaknesses within that regret?
right.
So there's so many good things that can come out of that.
Well, it's
But we want to reframe the regret as a stepping stone,
yes,
not a stumbling block. Yeah, we
exactly.
didn't fall over. It's just a stepping stone of
It-
learning.
You know, I'm gonna go a little bit of trauma again because, I used to ask myself, what did I learn from my trauma? Come on, I
Yeah.
mean, there's nothing to learn in that. There's nothing to learn from my stepfather and my mother who were the perpetrators. And it's like, no, wait a minute. Yeah, there is.
It's a lot to learn.
So what did I learn? Well, number one, I learned I don't want a parent like that.
Right.
Right. But the other thing is that, and it took me a while to figure this out, is that I had a calling on my life that I was unaware of when that was happening. This
Right.
is where people struggle with what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. But the reality is that I learned a lot.
Mhm.
I learned a whole lot in my 67 years
Yeah.
of life, my 38 years of, or the 5 years of being abused, the 38 years of living as a victim, and then coming out and the 20 years of my
Right.
healing.
Well, and that's the thing, in this research that we've got here, studies show that
Right,
people who use regret constructively tend to be more resilient and are able to bounce back
right,
more
exactly.
effectively from
Right,
setbacks.
right.
Now, does it happen overnight?
No,
Absolutely not.
absolutely not.
Absolutely not. It takes time. It takes a willingness and an open heart and an openness and willingness to be able to say, I need to overcome and I need to work through this so that I don't have future setbacks.
Exactly. And Kathy can to attest to this is that even the day 20 years into the recovery journey, not my sobriety would be 19 in February, but 20 years of recovery work, right? There's times when it's like, man, why?
Hmm.
What happened? Why was my childhood robbed from me? That little bit of regret comes into play.
Right.
But what I've learned to do is in a very calm, loving way. So I tell Kathy, I'm sad right now. I'm really angry even. And she'll
Hmm.
ask me why, and I'll tell her. She'll
Right.
go, understandable. And
Yeah.
then it goes away.
Yeah. No, and that's just a perfect example of why reframing regret can transform from a pointless emotion
Right.
to a tool for self-improvement.
Absolutely.
And that's
Right.
the process you've taken is you've
Right.
used your past, your trauma, your regrets and
Right.
behaviors and such, and turned it into self-improvement.
Exactly.
And anybody listening here, you also can do that as well.
Absolutely. It's not. It's going to take time,
Mhm.
depending on where you're at in life.
Yeah.
Don't
So
think that you're going to be stuck in this world of regret and resentment for
no.
the rest of your life. If you choose to stay there, of course you can.
Right. But
But
here we've got some points. So we've got
right,
5 points that will help you manage regret. So if
right.
you're having anything that you're regretting from as recently as last week to 10, 20 years ago, here's what you can do. The first thing we got to do, we need to acknowledge it.
Yes,
We have
absolutely.
to admit we have regret. Don't suppress it.
No, don't suppress it. It's like, you know, I'm going to go back when I entered in recovery or in my therapy. I can remember that I was finally validated. I all my feelings I thought were like not valid,
Mhm.
right? So it was like, I had to learn that, no, regret's okay. It's okay to say that you're hurt. It's okay to be angry, with somebody, or okay to be angry with God, but
It's
you're
okay
not,
to regret
it's
that that I am angry because of my abuse and that
right.
I drank and I drugged right along
And I
because
had,
of my
and
abuse.
I had the affair.
Right.
Yeah, but I learned from the regret.
Right. And that's the next one. You have to reframe your thinking. So
Exactly.
first of all, we have to acknowledge it.
Yep.
Then we have to reframe our thinking. So
Yeah.
instead of asking, why did this happen to me? Or why did I
Right.
do this? Ask what I can learn from this. What,
Always ask.
yeah. Ask yourself, what am I learning from this?
Exactly.
What is God trying to teach
Right.
me? What is it that I can do differently next time so I don't have this regret feeling again?
Because regret's not a good place to live.
No. And then the third point, we've got to acknowledge it. We've got to reframe our thinking.
And we got to take
We got to take
action.
some action here. We can't just sit still. We have to make a list of the steps that we can take to avoid
Right.
similar regrets in the future. It could be setting clear goals,
Yeah.
communicating better, taking calculated risks. We talk about that with clients a lot. Sometimes in order to change our past, we have to take some risks
And
that are
those
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And then the other big one too is boundaries.
Mhm.
You got to learn to set boundaries.
Right.
Okay, part of those actions, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And
And
sometimes that boundaries with yourself.
sometimes it is.
You
Sometimes
know,
it has to be.
yeah.
So,
I'm not going to allow myself to talk that way about
right.
me anymore.
Right. And then the fourth one is we have to forgive ourselves.
Yeah.
We have to learn that we're all human. We're all
Right.
going to make mistakes.
It's,
So practicing self-compassion can
right.
help you get through past regrets.
And I'm going to say this to all the Christians out there that are listening to this, right? The Bible tells us that if we ask God for forgiveness, He forgives us as far as the east is from the west and north is from the south. So
Mhm.
we are forgiven.
Right.
People say, I can't forgive myself. You don't have the power to forgive yourself. You've already been forgiven by the most high God there
Right.
is. So then my question becomes this: what are you holding on to so tightly that you can't let go?
Right.
Right? That's what it is. You've been forgiven.
Right.
But we're holding on to something, some part of regret,
Right.
something that happened in our life.
Right.
I mean, it's like I could be holding on to the affair I had, or the abuse, and and the abuse that I went through. I mean, I held on to it for 38
Yeah.
years.
Didn't benefit
Right?
you.
It didn't benefit
Right.
me, right? But when God forgave me, right?
When you acknowledge that
When
God
I
forgave
acknowledged
you.
that
Yeah.
God forgave me, then I was okay.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. So then the last one, the last tip here on the practical tips for managing regret is staying present.
Yes.
Ground yourself in the present
Right.
moment. Mindful practices like meditation, reading the Bible, listening to worship music, spending time alone in a quiet space, anything that can get you to focus on the now instead of the past.
And in that, what community are you surrounding
Yeah,
yourself with? I
that's
mean,
good.
one of our mentees is self-doubt. She's working on it really hard, and we were with them, and went to church, and while Kathy and I were there, they were introducing us to different people, and these people would come up and just say how much they admired our mentee, how powerful she was, and how
Mm.
they've changed her life, and they don't want this person to go. And it's like, as all those positive affirmations, right? It's what we need, and
Mhm.
it takes consistency hearing those things,
Right.
so that you can get it
So,
into the
right.
fiber of your
It
being.
allows you to get in your present and not in your
Right,
past.
so you're staying in the present
yeah.
moment right there. See what these people are saying about you right now?
Mhm.
Do you hear what
Do
they're
you hear that?
saying?
Yeah.
Right?
That helps you get out of that regret. So the 5 things, I'm just gonna go over those
Yeah,
tips
yeah,
again. We wanna acknowledge it, reframe our thinking.
yep,
We need to take action. We need to forgive ourselves, and we need to stay present.
yep, perfect,
So
perfect.
that's, yeah. So kinda now we're gonna kinda close this out. So we've got some final thoughts to talk about here, just to kind of reiterate some of the stuff, because I know this is a lot of information. This is a new topic for us even, that we've kind of delved into. But what we have to do is to sum it up, is we have to while regret is a common and even a natural emotion, it doesn't have to be a destructive one.
No,
And I think that that is something that we have to be mindful of, is, are we being destructive in our regretful behaviors?
and switch to thinking, what
Mhm.
can I learn?
Right.
What
Yeah.
did I learn from this experience?
Remember that regret is pointless
Yep,
if you let it be.
if you let it be.
Mhm.
Because if the other way again is, what did I learn from this?
Right.
Therefore, it's not pointless
Yep.
if you're learning from
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Use it as a catalyst for growth and
absolutely.
self-improvement, which
Yeah.
we've talked about. Life is too short to be weighed down by the past. Oh my gosh,
Absolutely,
that is
man.
heavy stuff to keep
I
adding to that.
I think I've told this story. I'll tell it very quickly. I'm a sunset and sunrise guy. Kathy knows I always have been. I love sunrises and sunsets. And I was about, I don't know, 6 months, a year, somewhere in that vicinity, into my recovery. And we're driving west on to Betty Ford Center, Country Club Drive in Rancho Mirage. And the sunset was just absolutely gorgeous, right? And Kathy was driving, and I was sitting. And I turned to Kath. I said, "Hey, Kath, have the sunsets always been that beautiful?" And she goes, "Yeah, you've just been missing them." And the point is I was seeing them, but I wasn't seeing the beauty in them because I was so caught up in the past.
You're weighed down.
I
Yeah,
was
you were
way
heavy.
down by the past.
Yeah.
So don't let that past weigh you down.
No, nope. And then the final thing is, obviously, we've talked about this, we reiterated it. Embrace the lessons that
Yes,
regret offers
right.
and use them to shape a better future.
Right.
Become better because of them.
Right.
So that's pretty good, huh?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
like this.
Yeah, yeah.
So we just want to say thanks for tuning in to the Heal and Restore podcast every week. We know we've got a lot of listeners that do
Right,
tune
right.
in. We hope you enjoyed
Yeah,
today's discussion because
absolutely.
it was something that was new for us. And so we ask that you consider subscribing and sharing or leaving a review. You have an opportunity to leave reviews. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us what you think of the episode. If there's any episodes out there that you have a topic that you think would be great to hear about, let us know. You
Yeah.
can reach out to us through our website at www.healandrestorecounseling.com, or you can email us at healandrestorecounseling@gmail.com,
Right.
or just send a message through social media.
Right.
Send a direct message there. So, this is what we're here for. We're here to, gain the insights for ourselves and be able to pass them along.
Pass them along.
to
We're
you.
doing this more for you than we are for ourselves.
Yeah.
Although we're constantly
We benefit
learning.
from it as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
So, but yeah, life is all about learning,
Right.
growing, and moving forward. So don't let regret hold you back.
No, not at all.
Embrace it, learn from it, and keep moving forward.
You're worth it, and you're loved
Yeah,
very much.
that's awesome.
So
So yeah, so just as a
Hey.
reminder to follow us on Instagram
Yep,
and Facebook
yep.
at Heal and Restore Counseling. We are still offering throughout the rest of this year, and we don't know, we may go
we
into the
might
next year.
go into next year.
But we still have our 45-minute, no cost to you discovery session. This is where we get a chance to sit down and start a conversation. We get to know you, you get to know us, we get to hear what your needs and desires are, and how we can help you.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that we do that. We offer that at no cost because we want to make sure we're a good fit for
Right.
our clients. And then we got some books coming out here soon.
Well, we got the How to Heal and Restore Your Marriage. That one's right now available on Amazon.
Yep.
Right. And then finally, Renewing Bonds was the
Renewing Bonds.
Yeah, Renewing Bonds is a title, is a subtitle to it too. The final edit is complete. The new book cover has been designed.
Coming soon.
It will
very,
be
very
out.
soon.
It'll probably be out. Not probably. It will be out before the end of the month, possibly by next week.
Yeah.
Possibly.
That's good.
But it's just we're waiting for it to get uploaded onto Amazon,
Yeah.
and we're off and running. And then we got another one coming off right after the first of the year. We got another one.
Don't be pushing that out so fast. We're not quite ready for that yet.
It's that one's done and ready.
Yeah.
And then just so you all know, I am writing a follow-up to my Healing the Wounded Child Within, called The Healing Path, A Survivor's Guide to Healing from Abuse.
That'd be good.
It's gonna take me a little while.
It's a how-to.
It's a how-to.
Yeah.
And it's a why.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the middle of chapter 2 right now. So I'm gonna take my time with this one.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, good stuff.
So anything else?
No.
Is that it?
No, I think we got it all.
All right. So remember this: if nobody tells you, Randy does.
Kathy does.
More importantly, God does. Be blessed, everybody. Have a marvelous week.
Be blessed.